You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
It is your boy, Evan Closky.
Back again, and we appreciate it. We are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Evan, it's getting that busy time of year for you as you're navigating baseball and now professional and college football and other things in the works. Am I correct?
Yeah, I was just at Bucks training camp recently. Today would be day 3. So, with practice, you got to get out there at 8:30 in the morning. Exactly what a sports guy wants to do who works until midnight. But, yeah, it's nice to have other content. It was so amazing to have the Rays for a large portion of this summer, and now it's the Rays need a buddy. They need a content buddy.
Yes, once school starts, that's when everybody's attention turns to the old pigskin. That's what happens, folks. But we are a baseball podcast, and we will continue. Evan, the Rays have had a crummy, to say the least, month of July. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, level of concern of the Rays being able to win the AL East.
7, 8.
Oof, it's that bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, part of me think everything can change with the trade deadline, right? I'm reserved to switch my answer. I'm of the belief that the Orioles should invest in some starting pitching, and if they do, I think they're a totally different team with World Series aspirations. If they don't, I think they're really treading quite the line. I think the Orioles are going to learn a lesson at the end of this year. As much as Rays fans, I think, are frustrated with Kevin Cash sometimes, he understands the big picture of getting to October and then that mattering and trying to preserve your players throughout the season. The Orioles feel like they're on a sprint right now, and it's July. And I'm just wondering, what are you going to do when Bautista and Cano are at like the 80 innings mark come playoff time? And what are they going to do next year when you got to ramp them back up for a new season? It just I feel like they're learning a little bit too much on the fly, but they're very Raysian in their way of, hey, let's go out there with Kyle Bradish as our Game 2 starter and see what happens.
Yeah,
So
it's like a bad or not quite accurate analogy, but when I ran cross country growing up, you had a contingent of folks who, right when the gun shoots off, they're sprinting out of the gates, and it's like, boys, we got 3.1 miles to go. You're wasting all your energy right at the beginning. You're gonna blow it here. So
Yep.
Could an argument be made that do you just blow Cano's arm and
do the Nick Anderson?
Well, I mean, the Rays were 11 outs away from a Game 7 in a World Series. Okay. So you can get really close with that mentality. Now, it didn't happen for the Rays, but maybe that's the thing with the Orioles is like, if everybody keeps saying the Orioles are the playoffs are a crapshoot, you just have to get in and anything can happen. Well, they're just making damn sure that they're going to be playing in October. Now, what happens then with their bullpen, that's basically the mentality that everybody in anti-social media says. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Well, maybe that's what they're doing. They just want to secure the fact that they're going to be playing October baseball because they haven't played October baseball in what, more than half a decade now?
Yeah. I think the Orioles also, by the way, they have a tremendous record in one-run games. large reason why is because of Cano and Batista. I mean, when you shorten the game to 7 innings, you're going to be successful in those close games. Having said that, they played a lot of one-run games, and that puts a lot of stress on arms and individuals. The way that they have done things, which is, I think, where the Rays have certainly progressed in how they've attacked their rotation. Because now, I mean, the Rays are built for the playoffs if their bats can show up. You know, that's the thing, right? Like, to an extent, you lose to Sandy, Alcantara, and that's going to happen, right? We've been saying that a lot. But in the playoffs, you're going to face those guys. You're going to face that caliber of opponent. You're going to have to – your best hitters are going to have to beat their best pitchers, and that's the reality. So the little bit of this makeup was hoping that the offense can do just enough for our stellar pitching. You know, that's the way that this team was built. They were not built on bullpen. They really weren't. They were always supposed to be Glasnow, Eflin, McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen. Bradley wasn't even a thought. Right? Yeah. So and think about Shane Baz is next year. So they've really progressed in, like, we need frontline starters, because that's kind of how you win in October. But what the Rays are learning is getting those guys to October is extremely difficult. And you can manage them all you want, but crap happens and arms blow out, elbows blow out, and that's where you look back and that 2021 team where they were a good offense and they had the pitching. They were just maybe a little immature at the time, right? And you know, there was a little bit panicky moment, but you had McClanahan, you had Rasmussen, you had a Glasnow. So, you know, there are these, or not Glasnow. I'm blanking on one of the guys. But Waka was good down the stretch, and then he blew up. Their bullpen was great that season too. Whatever, I'm getting off track. But regardless, there's a little bit that the Orioles, I think, are going to learn come August and September. And I believe they have like 2 9-game road trips during that time. So I think the Blue Jays are scarier than in some respects because of their lineup.
The big question is, can their relievers, can the Blue Jays and Orioles relievers, high leverage relievers, pitch in the cold? That's the big question.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well,
Pete Fairbanks is like the Newman of relievers. When it rains, when it's cold, I don't pitch. Yeah, I don't deliver the mail on those days.
The Rays are always innovative. They're always pioneering. So now they're going to have a home closer and an away closer, Kevin. This is the new ways. I want to go back to something that that Evan, you just said. You have to beat in the playoffs. That's the kind of caliber pitchers that you're going to be facing. You know, the Sandys of the world, which is 100% true. So I just did like a quick search on the MLB schedule of the Rays. I found. Do you guys remember the last time the Rays beat a bona fide ace, like somebody that I think most people would say, like, yeah, that's a really good pitcher, like that. He's been a good pitcher for a while. Do you guys care to guess
this
a
year
name?
or this year?
This year, yeah.
Okay.
On July 26th, by the way.
So I'm going to say I might use a preface of this because I know, first off, they scored, 4 runs off Zach Gallen in an inning. They pasted Luis Castillo and
Garrett Cole back in May, right?
Yeah.
I looked very quickly. June 16th against Yu Darvish. He was the actual pitcher of record. Now, you're right. Zach Gallen came a week and a half after that, Evan, but he was not the losing pitcher of record.
But my point is that the hitting got the job done against elite talent like that. The bigger problem is against Zach Davies.
Okay, so then we're talking June 16th against Yu Darvish, and then June 27th. That's a month, people.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'll say this. Look, when you're slumping and you're performing really bad at the plate, it's really tough to beat good pitching. So that's where they are right now.
Yeah.
We have more to discuss, but first we have to tell you this. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time that you need parts and accessories, head over to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. All you have to do is just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money will be returned. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a W when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on eBay Motors. ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Evan, I think the next time that we gather with you will be after the trade deadline. And with that, what is your prognostication of what the Rays will or won't do? Are they going to make a splash? Are they going to make multiple splashes? Is Rays fandom going to be sorely underwhelmed by what happens come August 1st?
They're going to get a starting pitcher. And I would imagine they're going to get some relief help. I would like high leverage, flamethrower, but knowing them and where they kind of search, maybe it won't be the name we all think. But I would imagine they're going to certainly try to get an innings eater who can provide backup depth for injury-prone guys like Eflin and Glasnow. I would also imagine they would like to make a deal with one team to get multiple pieces to try to kill two birds with one stone. Instead of shopping around, we'll give you this great prospect, but you're going to give us this and this. More bang for their buck. I would say that.
So could you foresee a situation, I know it's not going to light the world on fire, but making a deal with the Royals to get Scott Barlow and Zach Greinke, something like that?
Yeah, that would be a small potatoes type move.
Yeah.
I think that would be something that would get them what they need. I don't know if it'll help them too much. Barlow will. But, yeah, again, what I think they'll tend to do is probably be stingier than what people like. What I think they should do, and what I don't know what percentage I put it at, but I think it's very possible they make a really surprising move that takes some day-to-day player out of the mix to unclutter things, to really kind of make life easier on them. For anyone who plays fantasy baseball or fantasy football, right?
Yes.
When you have a slot for two running backs, but you have four stellar running backs on your team, you can only start two of them. And then every week you're like, oh man, who do I play? What do I do here? And you're always making the wrong choice. Sometimes it's better to make a trade with somebody. Man, I need wide receiver help. Let me just offload this, make my life a lot easier knowing that these are my two running backs, and strengthen my team out in a different area. So I really think they should look into decluttering their situation while also understanding that they have guys who are major league ready and they have to make decisions on them. Do you see a future with Basabe? Do you see a future with Aranda? Do you see a future with Carson Williams, Kyle Manzardo? Certainly Kyle Manzardo, who's in AAA right now. You have to make those decisions now because the next generation of Carson Williams, Junior Caminero, Xavier Isaac, they're going to come up, and that's going to clutter you again. So you got to make a tough decision. And I just think to go through this deadline and to maybe do nothing, stay cluttered, hope for the best, and then live in this kind of in-between of like, okay, we'll get to September, we'll call up Aranda, we'll finally get that platoon we want since the rosters expand by 2, and we'll get a little taste of, some more Vidal Brujan. I don't know what they're learning. And either maybe the mentality of this team is we're going to go down with this ship, and if it sinks this offseason, we are going to light it all on fire. It is a fire sale. We're going to bring up tons of new pieces. We'll keep some, throw away others, go younger, and just that.
I'm good with, you can get rid of Isaac Paredes. You can get rid of Harold Ramirez. You can get rid of XYZ.
I didn't mention
you got to keep Luke Raley in the mix.
Luke Raley has certainly earned.
He has.
Entering the season, I think they won't tell you. I think they thought in their head, we're going to give Luke Raley a shot with the notion that Kyle Manzardo will be our first baseman midway through the season. Yeah. And Luke Raley has been,
solid,
after Yandy Diaz, the most consistent player on this team.
Yeah. And he does a little bit of everything well.
And he plays the outfield. He actually plays the outfield much better than I originally thought. He plays first base. His sprint speed is impressive for a guy his size.
Yep.
His size, the way he runs, his lumbering style. And he's not just a big bruiser that's going to hit bombs. Like, he's got some touch and feel to his game of hitting the ball the other way and staying back on off speed. Again, not Yandy Diaz, but some Yandy Diaz-esque qualities to his game.
There's an element of, do you want to cash out those chips? Certainly not this year. Someone said, right, on Twitter, someone said to me, like, forget this trade Wander stuff. That stuff is just so dumb. Trade Randy. It doesn't make sense to trade Randy Arozarena in a season you're trying to win it all.
No.
But in the offseason, we can recircle and have that conversation. We can talk about that. Luke Raley, it doesn't make sense to trade him midseason when he's been your second most consistent player on the team as you're trying to win a World Series. In the offseason, we can talk about whether you want to cash out those chips. High whiff rate, relies heavily. I mean, I imagine he's going to have high exit velocities for a lot of his life. But what happens when he stops making contact, right? The way he has. Does he just fall into a Brandon Lau type player with, I don't know. But my point is there's too much redundancy in the lineup when they built this team. And they were crushing home runs left and right, and people were getting on base, and life was great. Power has come down a lot. OPS, we know. Average, we know. Everyone's struggling. Jose Suri is a defensively minded player who can hit home runs but strikes out at an egregious clip, 34%. That's ridiculous. But if he's going to strike out at 34%, you better be leading the team in home runs.
Right.
He's going to hit 25 homers. So I'll take a really good defensive center fielder who hits 25 homers and strikes out a third of the time. Taylor Walls, defensively minded player, can't hit worth a lick, has hit 1 month in his entire Major League Baseball career. It was a mirage. Yeah. Again, defense, and he's an auto out. So now you have two people who strike the K rate is extremely high. Brandon Lau, if he would do what Jose Siri did, I think we'd have a different discussion here of what he can be since he doesn't strike out 34% of the time. But he just is not homering at that rate. He's not walking at the rate he used to. He used to average around 260. He used to get base hits once in a while. He's not doing that anymore. So now you have a player who just strikes out a fourth of the time and is rarely contributing. And he has actually done better recently. But on the whole, rarely contributing. And when he does, for the most part, it's with very little people on base. Why? Because you got Christian Bethancourt, and his strikeout rate is 20-something%. Luke Raley's strikeout percentage.
Yeah, let me also add, I wasn't trying to compare Luke Raley to Yandy Diaz in terms of the strikeout and the walk rate.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, again, it brings me back to the point that I started with. You can't build a lineup with 7 players who strike out a third of the time, because that's why you have solo home runs. That's why people aren't on base, because they're not making contact.
23 out of the last 29, right, Evan? 23 out of the last 29 home runs hit by the Rays.
Like yeah, I have to redo the number,
right?
But yeah, it's not a fluke. Someone yelled at me, was like, "Oh, I'm not going to give like the Orioles credit because they, Cowser got a lucky hit and Schwarber didn't catch the ball." Well, he put the ball in play against the defender who sucks. And guess what? It's great when you put the ball in play to challenge defenses, because shit happens. Pardon my French, but it does. And the problem is they don't challenge anyone anymore. They don't. And it goes back to last year. They don't push the envelope. But they have to get hitters that are more dynamic than all or nothing. You can have Jose Siri do that. You can have Taylor Walls as your backup. I don't need him playing more than once a week, but he's a great defensive replacement. And if you want to keep him in that regard to come in 7th, 8th, and 9th in a game that you're winning, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't then have Lau, and you can't then have Bethancourt, and you can't have Raley. Like, I love Raley, but he strikes out all the time too. So you're just creating a cycle of no one on base, home run, no one on base, double, out, strikeout. Why do they stink in extra innings, typically dating back to last year? Because they can't put pressure on the defense. They're striking out. They're horrific in the format because with a guy on second, it doesn't matter. They're just going to strike out. So it's like they create like these situations for themselves. And they refuse to bunt with people who are buntable. Manuel Margot has maybe that injury from last year has really hurt him. He's not the same player. And you can't have Manuel Margot on this team if he's not going to hit. I understand he's your backup center fielder. He's actually a really darn good center fielder. But you can't just keep saying, well, he's good at defense, I want to keep him. Maybe the offense will turn around. At some point, someone's got to go. At some point, you got to make the tough decision and say, you know what? I'm going to keep you and trust that you'll turn it around. I'm sorry, you're just not getting it done.
Sure.
And, I really think they can make a big splash. It is going to involving a prospect more than what they would like to do to try to kick in a Margot, a Brandon Lau, to get money off the books from next year to try to get rid of that $19 million from 2 players who honestly will not carry their water with that contract, especially with the Rays who count their money and don't really have the ability to miss on even the $10 million contracts that are, frivolous amounts for 1/10 for the top 10 teams in the league.
A week from now, before we move on to baseball trivia and name that war, a week from now, are any of these players in a Rays uniform, yes or no? And I'm just going to run down these 4 names. They've been ballyhooed in MLB trade rumors with ties to the Rays. Lance Lynn, David Robertson, Michael Lorenzen, Marcus Stroman.
Dude, give me David Robertson, please.
I will say Lance Lynn, I think, makes sense, though it looks like the White Sox are playing hardball and they're trying to push. But Robertson makes sense in the fact that you can probably offload. You can tell the Mets, right? We want Robertson.
Why did the Rays get rid of him again in the first place?
Well, they didn't get rid of him.
They didn't want to pay him $10 million because $10 million is too much for somebody who actually does their job, I guess.
But if they wanted to get Robertson back, they can probably tell the Mets for this prospect, take Manuel Margot off our hands. Yeah. And maybe they have another deal waiting in the wings that they're going to use that. They'll rationalize it and say, yeah, this guy costs money, but we just took $10 million off the books next year. So, that's how we're going to rationalize that stuff. So I think those are the types of moves that the Rays have to make. If they stay put, it really is like the last hurrah. Like this is like I'm telling you, if they stay put, it's them saying this offseason is going to be a whole different team. And if the chemistry issues don't fix itself, everything's on the table.
Tsunami of changes.
Yeah, everything's on the table. Suns wander, despite what people believe.
Hey, give us content. Give us off-season content because we need it. Rays front office, hope you're listening. All right, baseball trivia, name that war. The Rays are playing the Houston Trash Cans over this 3-game set this weekend. In front of me, I have a top 10 list of most games played in a Houston Astros / Trash Cans uniform. Give me 5 of these 10 names.
Biggio, Bagwell, Berkman.
Correct. Biggio's number 1. Bagwell's number 2. Berkman's number 3.
Ulises.
Jose Altuve.
Jose Altuve is number 4.
Bregman?
Strike 1.
Oh.
Okay.
Would Correa do it? Ulises?
Let's see. If Bregman is not there and they both came up in 17 and Correa left earlier, but Bregman has missed some time with the IL. No, I don't think Correa would make it. No. I'm thinking, is there a pitcher can I ask a question? Is there a pitcher on the list or just position players?
There is not a pitcher on the list. This is all position players.
Okay. Oh gosh. I'm thinking somebody like Hunter Pence, Michael Bourne. What do you think, Evan?
Not Michael
guesses,
Bourne.
or are you deliberating?
No, I'm just asking on Evan.
Pence played for. Right, he played for the Giants. I feel like that he would have spent too much time away from the team.
But he spent like his first like 7 years with him.
All right, Hunter Pence.
Strike 2.
Yeah.
You don't like Michael Bourne, Evan?
Michael Bourne also. He played for the Phillies. I just don't think he would have lost the necessary games. He played for the Brewers. I was going to say like a Carlos Lee, a Richard Hidalgo.
Ooh, Hidalgo's a good one.
Morgan Ensberg, maybe?
I like either Hidalgo or Morgan. You can have
Morgan Ensberg.
Morgan Ensberg, the AA manager in the Rays organization now for the Biscuits, I believe. Strike 3, that is incorrect. Biggio, number 1. Bagwell, 2. Jose Cruz, number 3. Jose Altuve, number 4. Lance Berkman, number 5. Terry Poole, number 6. Cesar Cedeno, number 7. Number 8, Jim Wynn. Number 9, Bob Watson. And number 10, catcher turned manager, Brad Miss.
Oh, God.
Son of a you-know-what. Okay, fine. Well, then I can get you on Name That War, which is when we take a player from the past and we go into our baseball archives in our minds and we try to guess their career war according to Baseball Reference. And today's player is Jose Valverde. What is Jose Valverde's Baseball Reference? Former Astro. That is correct.
Oh, my God. This one is maybe one of the toughest ones you've thrown out there.
Relievers are finicky.
This man forever.
Yeah.
And he plays such a niche role.
Yeah.
I feel like he was on the B team compared to like Francisco Cordero's A team.
I'm so bad at this game. I'm going to go.
You know what, Evan, if you want, you can give Kevin first, and you can kind of.
You already guessed
8.2.
Oh, okay.
8.2 seems a little stingy. I think Jose Valverde played at least 10 years in the bigs, had a lot of saves for what that's worth. In fact, if I had to guess or gander, I would think he probably racked up somewhere between 250 to 300 saves, maybe more than 300 career saves. Probably had maybe a 3.5 career ERA. All that bottled up is more than 8 WAR. I'm going to say 14.5 WAR.
Evan goes with 8.5. Kevin goes with 14.5. Jose Valverde's career ERA is a 3.27. He had 288 saves. He had an ERA plus of 133, a FIP of 3.66, and his career WAR, according to Baseball Reference, was 11.5. Right in the middle, boys.
I think technically I went 8.2, so I think Kev wins it by
0.3?
Oh. 0.2, yeah, by 0.3. Unless we're playing Price is Right rules where he went over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to be nice to both of you and call it a draw. You're both equidistant to his Baseball Reference. Very nice, boys. He was a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Relief Pitcher of the Year. And yeah, his last year in the league was 2014 with the New York Mets.
His last 2 years were god awful.
Yeah,
they were.
That's my thing with relief pitchers is that no matter how good you are, there's somewhere in there where you, unless you're like Trevor Hoffman or one of the greats, where you were horrendous and it totally that's a lost year and a negative year. It's like.
Yeah,
it's like a year that doesn't even count. You might have to add like a -1 to all relievers, just assuming that they had a couple of blow up years.
He had MVP votes in 2 different years. He had Cy Young votes in 2 different years. A top 5 finish, a top 6 finish in the Cy Young Award. Trophy winner award. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Good name.
Good job. Good job, guys.
Thank you. I was kind of on the money with the saves and the ERA.
You're oddly very good at that.
Yeah. And then I was kind of right because I looked up Francisco Cordero. He was kind of the B squad to Cordero's A squad just in terms of years and number of saves. So there's that. Evan, briefly, how can people reach out to you and find your amazing work?
At Closky WTSP. You can find me on Twitter. I usually have a comment on the Rays every day. A lot of them have been really unfortunate for you as a fan. But head to 10tampabay.com. Not only are we talking about Rays, but we also have Buccaneers starting up. We're going to – Devin White reported to camp. We have tons on the quarterback battle. This team is probably better than you think. So, we're getting into the fall. All the postseason, the preseason polls have come out in college football. USF, unfortunately, not treated with respect. At least that one is a little bit more understood than some others in our area as far as the disrespect that happens. So, we'll be running full force into the college football season. And I do want to mention we're going to be heading out to Canton. Rondé Barber and Ken Riley. Going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I met Rondé Barber a couple months back. He still looks like he could play. I mean, we're not a baseball podcast, but the fact that guy –
We're not a baseball podcast.
You are a baseball podcast.
We are a baseball podcast, buddy.
What did I say? Yeah.
It's late, folks. You guys don't know?
It is late. What I'd like to say is that is awesome for you, Evan, that you're going to – Canton, and congratulations to Rondé Barber. Great dude, great player. Not many guys like him that can be as durable as him and with his stature as well. So amazing on that front. Hot take here before we end. The Bucks will go undefeated in the regular season, lose in the first round of the playoffs, However, Baker Mayfield will win MVP honors. There's your hot takes.
Whoa. Get out of here before this room starts spinning on fire.
All right, hit up the comments in YouTube. Bye.
Get out of here.